Our top story this morning is a good one. Schools are going to be given the power to ban mobile phones. I sort of look at this and I think, why have they not? What's taken so long? Why have they not got this power already? I mean, can you imagine? I don't know. I'm out of touch with what's going on in schools. I haven't got kids of school age or anything like that. But I look and I think, I know that in my college where I went, that if the teacher said, you're not bringing that into class, it would be left in a basket at the top of the room or whatever it was, but that would be the law. That would be it. And the idea that kids can go about and sit in class and use phones after class and whatever, I just find unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's good that they are empowering schools, I think, to try and take a tough line. If they're struggling with this, their kids really need to get the message that school is not the right place for the phone. Really interesting to see how they're tackling it, and we'll sort of get into all the details of this guidance. It's not actually a change in the law.
You see, if I was in class, my mate at the back of the class, because he would be at the back of the class, and he would and he'd be texting us. He'd be texting saying, "This is boring. This is boring." Hey,
I'm the one at the back of the class, aren't I? I knew you were going to come to that. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's crazy. You can't be sitting there with your mobile phone.
Your kids are probably the most around this sort of age. They've just been through secondary. Mine aren't quite at phone age.
They can use them.
How much of a problem is it, though, having smartphones in schools?
Do you know what? I think it's just expected because everybody's got them. Everybody's got them the whole time. You know, and sometimes
including the teachers.
Including the teachers. They're texting the teachers. They could actually do the class of the thing. I remember we were banned from taking abacuses into class back in the day. I remember those days.
Oh, but
leave your abacus there.
No, but I do remember the huge controversy that electronic calculators caused.
Oh, none in exams. You can't have a calculator in an exam.
Yeah.
You know what I did with a calculator once in a maths exam or in a maths lesson? There was a button, and I saw how many times I could actually press plus button and see how many numbers. That was how well my maths went.
Wow.
Just to keep pressing it.
That's interesting.
That was fun.
That's got a name when you do that.
Repetitive.
Like infinity or something. I don't know what it is.
I think I got up to about.
Anyway, Charlie Rowley. Let's go to Charlie and get his view. Charlie's a former special advisor to the government. And Charlie, we're expressing our doubt here that it's taken so long to get this, to get around to this. What's your view?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, as you were just saying. You know, they've become a huge distraction in the classroom, and more so than just being used to sort of text a friend or have a bit of fun with, a friend in the classroom. They've become a go-to for people to look at things that are online that are incredibly harmful, and it comes on the back of Brianna Jai's mother, Esther Jai, who's obviously called for this ban because her daughter got sort of too involved in the online sort of scene, found content, used it as an escape for her to be popular, and the perpetrators of that awful murder.
But Charlie, with all due respect, you don't have to be in class to access the dark web.
But you're right, but I think it's the amount of bullying that can take place within the classroom and within school during school timetables. So, taking pictures of your school friends, you're sending abusive messages to people, sending abusive content to other people within school. It can be an incredibly intimidating environment as it is without that from your peers. So you're absolutely right. Outside of the classroom, obviously there's got to be a lot more work done with online companies and parents to make sure that their kids are not going online and accessing this content. But specifically in schools, it's a huge distraction. And that's what the government
huge distraction to the detriment of their education. I mean, teachers tell us that they've seen this huge decline in attainment and achievement since the use of smartphones in schools. And also, you're talking about abuse. A lot of it is sexual, frankly, that children are being bullied into sending sexual content on their phones. So there should be a safe space, and I think everybody seems to think this is a good idea. The government giving 4 different ways that schools can bring this in. One is an all-out ban, leave them at home. I think the other one is to hand it to staff when they arrive at school. The third is to lock it up in their locker. And the fourth is the most liberal, which is keep hold of your phone, but make sure that it's never used, seen or heard.
No, forget that.
I think that's what most schools will go for, though,
Well, I don't know why. And keeping it in your locker, I wouldn't trust any kid to do that themselves. I mean, when we were all young at school, gossiping in class or idle chit-chat or whatever was regarded as a great evil. I mean, this is the way to do it. I mean, you can be sitting texting someone else in the classroom having a completely different conversation than listening to your geography lesson, for instance, as well.
Exactly. And I think, look, parents, I think, will take comfort from the fact that actually if there is just a blanket ban and they know that their kids are not going to receive that kind of abuse, they're not going to get those distractions that they do face. and so on. But I think, look, it'll be up to schools to decide, and schools how they can enforce it themselves. But ultimately, it comes down to, as you're saying, attainment and concentration levels. You know, they absolutely drop if people are playing on their phones and are being distracted. Of course, if you have it throughout the day, there's nothing stopping you, bunking off to the loo in break and sort of getting on the phone then. So I think making sure that they are just not a feature.
They're just not a feature. It's like saying you can bring your bicycle into class or your Monopoly game or whatever it happens to be. It just should not be allowed. I mean, I remember in my days, one of the great attractions that everybody wanted to speak to each other. You brought a radio in to listen to the FA Cup draw, which was 1 o'clock on a Monday or whatever, so it depended what time your lunch break was. But what I'm saying is, if that happens, if the FA Cup draw happens or whatever, or the Champions League draw happens, you're bound to be on in your class. I mean, a blind man and a galloping horse can see that this is a total distraction from what you're supposed to be there to do. So without even going into the dark web aspects and the terrible harm that comes from things like that, they just should not be there. School is for learning, not for gossiping with your mates.
I think that's absolutely right. And the question that I think, parents will obviously want to know as well is how can teachers, teachers have got a lot on their plate anyway.
Yeah.
They've got a lot to do with sort of getting discipline in the classrooms. The last thing that you want teachers to do is have another responsibility of taking those phones off the kids when they arrive at the school. It should just be probably a blanket ban to make sure that teachers can just get on and teach and kids can get on and learn.
Sounds good to me.
Well, we're just airing our views here. We want to know from you, and we'll have the Education Secretary at 7:05 this morning, and she'll try and outline and explain what her plans towards all of this is.